Hello everyone and welcome to Sisterhood Portal. It's Wonderful Woman Wednesday.
Whoop, whoop.
I'm Mama Shoop and today we're showcasing a wonderful woman in our community, Miss Cera Byer. Welcome, Cera.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for being here. So, let's get to it.
Let's go.
You do many wonderful, inspiring things. One thing that I know is that I always feel really pumped up and inspired after we chat. And so I'd like to go through your journey, find out what brought you here. Yeah.
Cool.
We met in the dance world.
Mm-hmm.
We've also hung out in your coaching world
Mm-hmm.
and my healing world. We're both dancers, writers, motivators of sorts, healers.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really wanting to know what you're passionate about and wanting to talk about that journey, like how you got to that thing and why you care about it.
Okay. So, I mean, I guess I'm like passionate about everything. I can start there. Just a super passionate person, I think, in general. I think it's really about what connects people, right? Like what makes us similar. So all of my work, whether it's in dance or in music or in writing or in coaching, I'm always interested in how similar we all are, how everyone kind of wants the same things, and also that we all feel isolated in really similar ways. So as we start to learn about ourselves and learn about our desires and the things that we want and the things that we need in our lives to be happy, we start coming down to the fact that like pretty much everything that we're afraid of is the same thing that everybody else is afraid of. And the more that we see that, the easier it is for us to accept ourselves. And the more that we accept ourselves, the easier it is for us to do the things that we want to do and feel free to live the way that we want to live. So yeah, I think that I'm really interested for myself in, I mean, my whole path has been about realizing that all of the things that have held me back or continue to hold me back or that I'm ashamed of or that I want to hide or that I feel, people won't accept or are part of my shadow are not a fucking big deal. And that everyone else has similar stuff. And the more I can let go of needing to hide things or needing to modify myself to get approval, the easier it is for me to live my life. And I think that that's true for everyone. So creating a space where other people can do that ends up being what the majority of my work is about. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, and I think that's why we're here together, because we connect in that way. We're both helping ourselves get over that stuff, and then we go help other people because we've discovered these methods and these ways in which to free ourselves, to live happy and free, to not give a shit.
Yeah.
Not give a shit. So tell us what you're creating. Like, first of all, I want to know, what medium do you love? Like, what's your favorite, or do you have a favorite, or what does that look like in your creative practice?
Yeah, so I actually don't feel like I do a lot of different things. I do one thing. I'm a storyteller.
Okay, and
Right.
you do it in different ways. Do
Right.
you have a favorite medium for storytelling?
No, I don't. And I, like people, I think even you and I were talking about this earlier, people are like, oh, but you do music and you do movement and you write and you coach. To me, I'm like, no, I do one thing. I tell stories. I uncover stories. I help people tell their stories. But everything for me is about stories, because everything for me is about connection and communication, because everything is about wanting to be understood. Like, I think that for me is a fundamental need that I have, is like, I want to feel understood. I want to feel held. I want to feel like people get me. And I think that that's something that everybody wants. We want to feel seen. We want to feel understood.
Absolutely. I mean, all the experience we're having is macrocosmic, and you find that out as a holder of space in any way. You show up to class and whatever you're going through, everyone else is also going through it in some way, or if you're at a workshop or a retreat or something like that.
Well, and like, why is there resistance, right? Like, why do we hide? Why do people have things that they're ashamed of? It's because they're afraid that if they were to share this thing, it would not be understood. It wouldn't be accepted. So they have to hide.
It's not okay.
It's not okay.
They've been told somewhere along the way,
right,
that it wasn't okay.
Yeah.
In my journal just the other day, I was rereading it. It says, "You don't have to hide," in capital letters, and I was like, "What was I thinking that day?" But it's so true. So many of us hide a lot of who we are, what we prefer, how we like to create, or even what we're into, or who we are.
Yeah, and it gets to us in such deep levels. And when it comes to creativity, right, people don't want to share their work because it's not done, right, or it won't be good enough, right? And all that's about is I won't be understood. It won't be approved of.
It'll be judged.
It will be judged.
Yeah, and it will.
Right.
And that's the brilliant thing, is who don't care.
Yeah.
Just know that and move through it anyway.
Well, and I think, like, one of the things that I work with people on in the coaching program I'm doing right now, which is called the Body Love Lab, and we'll come back to talking about that.
Let's circle back.
But one of the things that we talk about in the Body Love Lab is when we tell ourselves that if someone else doesn't like something I'm doing, that's a reason not to do it.
Right.
What you're telling yourself is, I will not be able to emotionally withstand disapproval. I'm not strong enough to emotionally withstand a stranger not liking something I wrote on the internet.
So get there first. Get
right?
strong.
But also, it's not true. You are completely
You are
strong enough to
strong.
handle someone that you don't even know not
Yeah.
liking your shit on the internet. Like, we are so much stronger. Like, when you really think about it, like, if I wrote a Facebook status and someone didn't like it, would that crush me to the point that I never want to get out of bed again? Like, no, I'll be fine. It's really not going to ruin my life. But we magnify the impact of others' disapproval, right? And that's all fear is, right? It's just this magnification of consequences. Hello. You're not supposed to be here.
He wants to be with us.
He's not supposed to have his bone up here. So, magnification of consequences, right? We start thinking, oh, I wouldn't be able to handle this. This would be so devastating. This would be so detrimental. It would hurt me so much.
Well, and so many people work so hard to put out whatever it is they're putting out, and that's such a vulnerable place. You've seen it in dance, and it's people putting something out, and then there's so much to say about it, and it's a skill, I think, that maybe we don't realize that we have, coming from where, or that you have, coming from where you come from.
But think about it this way, like, flip this around. As a consumer of entertainment, there are thousands of things on, let's just say with TV. There's thousands of things on TV at any given time. And I'm sitting there flipping through the channels. There's dozens of shows that I reject. This is not my show. This is not what I want to watch. This is not what I'm interested in. I don't care for this actor or actress. This is not my topic. This is just not my thing. This show, I want to watch this one.
Yeah.
And I settle on that one. All those other shows are not suffering for me not choosing to watch them. They're still fine. They still have an audience. They're still on TV. They are doing okay. I don't feel guilty for not choosing to watch those shows, and they don't feel devastated for me not being their audience. The same thing is true for you as a creator. You have an audience. You have people who, while they're scrolling through, would come across your thing and be like, this is my channel. There will also be people who are like, I'm just here to watch car stuff. They're just not your people.
And why is that so hard for us to just get going when we know that, you know? How can we know that those people are out there? So let's loop around to what you are doing, what you are creating. Because we mentioned in the beginning, you're a dancer, you're a coach, you're a writer, you're a musician, you're many things. We'll just keep naming stuff. But let's talk about what program or what product or how you're developing helping people in this way?
Yeah. So Body Love Lab,
What is it?
Yeah, what is it? That's a great question.
So Body Love Lab.
The Body Love Lab is right now, in its current incarnation, it is a 7-week online group coaching program that is designed to facilitate a process where people can fall in love with their bodies and their lives from the inside out. And I mean that in a very deep way. Body positivity as a movement is really everywhere right now. Just like positive thinking and law of attraction is kind of everywhere right now. And there are wonderful things being done there. But there are also ways that the sloganness of them on the internet as they appear can become just one more thing that you can put pressure on yourself, that you're like, now I'm not being positive, right? Now I'm supposed to just be able to accept all of this stuff that I actually feel badly about, and if I don't, I'm failing at that too, right? So being told you should feel positive can be really confronting when you feel badly about things, or like you're struggling to accept certain things, or you feel stuck, or you feel resistance. It can be really difficult to be told, and you should feel positive about that. You should have a positive outlook on that.
So what would I expect coming into your program? Like how what's my commitment level? Like what are we doing? What are we up to?
So Body Love Lab is really about falling in love. And when you talk with people about falling in love with a partner, in a romantic relationship, or in any kind of two-person relationship, what's the foundation of love? What do you feel? Like, what's the foundation of love?
The first thing that came into my mind was trust.
Yes.
Safety.
Exactly. So everyone says that, right? That's the answer every single time. Like, we all know what's the foundation of love. It's trust. It's honesty, right? So the process of falling in love with yourself is the process of building trust with your body. And we live in a society that tells us constantly that our body is an untrustworthy source of information. Our feelings aren't trusted. We should use logic, right? This is part of misogyny and patriarchy. This is part of having a masculinist society where literally, and I'm not talking about men, but I'm talking about masculine and feminine energy. The masculine is prized over the feminine.
Yes, and it's important to notice that we're not necessarily dogging men, but saying we all have a masculine and feminine aspect, and masculine aspects being work, career, the sun, those things which you're holding strength in, providing, root chakra,
action, logic.
There you go.
Intellect, the thinking over the feeling, the doing over the being, the achieving over the experiencing, right? All of these things are part of living in a masculinist society, right? A misogynistic culture that says that masculine attributes are inherently better than feminine attributes. Now, we all have masculine and feminine attributes. Nature has masculine and feminine attributes. But when you live in a culture that tells you that feminine attributes, feeling, emotions, experiencing, receptivity, creativity, stillness, right? All of those things are not valuable. We're just told they're not valuable. You're supposed to be productive, logical, right? We're basically supposed to be like Vulcans. You know what I mean? Like, it should all be logic, no emotion. The worst insult that you can give to someone is that they're emotional, they're hysterical, they're irrational, they're like too emotional, you're too sensitive, right? All
definitely
of these
in
things.
This culture.
Yeah.
In our culture, I agree with that. It's not all cultures, but it is a problem in the world.
It's a problem.
And those cultures have other things, so we
world.
could go on about.
Well, and I had people in my last group. I had people from 4 countries. Like, I had very different cultural representations. It's hard to find a single culture you can think of in the world that's not based in patriarchy and misogyny at this
It
point.
is,
Like,
it
it's
is.
very difficult to find a culture that doesn't value those things. And some of that has to do with colonialism, right? Like the spread of the West by force and the spread of Western thought by force, which is a whole other conversation. But so when you live in a society that tells you from the time you are a child that your body is not a trustworthy source of information, it produces shame, it produces cognitive dissonance, right? So even think about starting in school. If you're hungry at 11 o'clock, doesn't matter, it's not lunchtime. You have to wait until we say it's time to eat lunch, because that's when it's lunchtime. Your body telling you you're hungry right now is meaningless. Society tells you you eat at lunchtime. And your body feels playful and you want to run around. It doesn't matter. It's not playtime right now. It's sit still time right now. And society says that we have to sit still right now, so that's what you do. So from the time we're children, the whole process of becoming enculturated, of being socialized, is to learn to override your desires and your impulses in order to fit in order to conform, in order to adhere, in order to behave properly.
Now, wouldn't some say that there's got to be some order in the world, as far as just like a, rebuttal, or not rebuttal, but like a thing where I can see value in order. Like, okay, if I'm in the middle of, say, a wedding,
Right.
maybe I'll hold it.
Right.
And use the restroom afterwards. But,
Yeah.
Generally speaking,
Yeah.
it's interesting because I feel like most people would just write that off. Like, well, we have to have order in the world. So
Yeah.
it's subtle. It's subtle
Yeah.
to notice that this is so deep and
But here's
so
the thing, though.
inherently present.
We do have order in the world. Nature didn't have man-made laws, and it managed without
It
us for a
absolutely did.
long time.
It's true.
There are rhythms. Like, we naturally get, like, most of us should sleep at night. Our bodies respond to when there's dark and when there's light.
The sun. And cultures that, that take naps and actually shut down businesses from 4 to 5, or
Right.
I don't know exactly what time. But, how magical.
So there is, that's the thing. It's the idea that there's not order without man-made order. There's not order without order being imposed. Literally the idea that if you did what you felt, it would be complete fucking anarchy, and we would only ever eat junk food and have sex with a zillion people and run amok. That's the fear-based way that we keep people in line. That, like, you must have this hyper-imposed structure and morality in order to function.
Even that you must have a regular job, that you
Right.
need to have a life that's this, picture of what it should look like. And
Those are the seeds that sow distrust in us.
this is where it starts. In
My
the
body is not a trustworthy source of information. My body will lead me astray. My body will lead me on a course to complete disaster. If I ate what I wanted to eat, I would gain 1,000 pounds and die. If I followed my heart, I would end up living in a cardboard box somewhere. There is no internal regulatory order to being a human. We're all just banshees. And it's not true. It's just not true.
It's not. We're reining this in. So can people find and hear about your program? Where are people talking about this?
Yeah.
Where is this?
Well, certainly right now on my Instagram, that's kind of the primary place. I'm really talking about it on Instagram.
We'll link all of this below.
Yes. And on Facebook and on my website, there's a full description of the program. So I guess to kind of wrap that back around, the program as it stands right now is structured around a book I wrote called The 6 Pillars of Body Love, which is only available through the program. And I do have designs on having it published and much more broadly available in the future. But right now, the only place to get the book is as a participant in the program.
Congratulations on the book, by the way.
Thank you.
It's a big accomplishment.
So the book kind of breaks down all of these concepts and then breaks down what I feel are the 6 fundamental components of falling in love with your body. And the way that I came to them was very organically through getting a lot of comments on social media from people being like, I love how confident you are. I love the way that you are in your body. I love how positive you are. I wish I felt that way. And I just felt this need, like I would get it over and over and over again, especially from younger women, of just, I wish I felt that way. And so to me, I was like, oh, well, I didn't always feel this way. I didn't wake up one day feeling this way. This was a process. And as a coach and a writer already, I was like, I wonder if this is something I can teach. I wonder if I could essentialize this process, because this is a journey that took me 12 years of concerted effort before I was like, oh, I love myself. And there was all kinds of training and modalities and different things I dabbled into. And I was like, okay, can I boil this down so that it doesn't take the next person 12 years? Is there a way that I can consolidate this process? What do I think is really necessary to make this happen? So I started writing. I brought it down to 6 key components that I think are necessary, 6 different areas of life. And then the book has reflections and journaling and daily practices that you go through in order to implement the pillars. And when I say pillars, I really mean it like architecture. Like we are taking you down to the studs and reinforcing you from the inside out with these new things to hold you up. And it's done in a group because the community part of it, of being able to share that connection of like, oh, this thing that I felt alone and ashamed about my whole life, there's 40 other people in here who also felt alone and ashamed. Like we've all just not talked about this, but we all feel it, and it's all bullshit. There's so much liberation and freedom in going through the process with others. So that's why I do it in a group format.
That's transformative.
It's magical.
So do these groups have space together after the program? Is there a check-in? Is there a place for them?
Literally each cohort gets its own private Facebook group that never goes away.
Cool. So you have that group that you went through.
Those are your comrades, man.
Those are like your camp people.
It really does feel like that. There are people who have been through this with you, and no one will know you like those people. And when I say transforming you from the inside out, it's so much deeper than anyone is ever prepared for it to be, because when you start giving yourself permission to feel your feelings, right? This thing is like an approval factory. When you start making everything okay and giving yourself permission to be safe to feel your feelings and creating a framework in your life where everything that you want is okay with you, you stop being able to hide from yourself. So I had people leave relationships. I had people quit their job. I had people change careers. Like part of getting into our body is like, oh, I've been upset about that for 10 years.
Right, honesty.
It's just like not.
Same thing happens in Reiki and in yoga. These places we can get to where we're just being honest and listening.
Yeah.
Just listening. There's nothing to do.
And building that trust with yourself that like this thing that I've been feeling is real, is valid. And part of how I cultivate love, it's the same way as with another person, is my body says, this is scary and upsetting to me. And I show up and say, okay, well then let's fix that. And not like, shut up and sit down. We don't have time for that right now. We have to work. It's not time, right? Like that's that societal process. We internalize that, like, sit down, shut up. Yeah. It's not time for that. No one wants to hear that. No one cares about your feelings. You just need to do what everyone else is doing, right? All of that shoved down goes away.
Comes out, and you have this very intimate experience, I would think, with the group.
Yeah. And so when you've been through that with others, and people start making these posts that are like, hey guys, like, I've just realized I'm going to leave my marriage. I've just realized I'm going to leave my career and start my own business. I've just realized I need to move away from the city I live in. And you have all these people who are like, yeah, we see that. We support it. You do. You're right. You should. These people know you and what you've been through and the journey that brought you to that decision more than anyone else in your life will. And now you have this community of people who are going to cheer for all of your authentic truth.
Wow.
It's pretty fucking awesome.
So where can people sign up?
Yeah. So my website is www.thecreativitycoach.online, not .com. Yes, down there.
Down there.
And if you just go there, you'll get a pop-up that takes you straight to the Body Love Lab page, and you can check that out.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So, say I'm digging your scene and I'm liking where you're coming from, and I don't want to join a group. Mm-hmm. You also offer one-on-one coaching.
Yeah, I have started doing this one-on-one.
Look at that.
Yeah. So I am doing the program itself with a couple of people one-on-one. It's essentially the same format, which is that we meet via video once a week. And we go through the reflections that they have written over the past week as they've worked through the pillar. So they'll be sending me their journaling throughout the week, and I'm reading all of your journals. I'm reading everything that you want to share with me, and then showing up one-on-one in a video chat, and we talk through it. I also bring a lot of tarot and EFT tapping into my coaching sessions. So sometimes there's a blend in the coaching, and I do this in the group as well, of readings or of leading people through an EFT tapping process on a specific issue that feels really stuck in their body.
Nice.
Yeah.
So before we wrap up, I would like to circle back to the beginning. And because we're friends and I know you, and there's so much in there, and I'm really excited about this for you, and congratulations on creating something so powerful and just empowering the women, empowering the matriarchy, the divine feminine to come through. And I would love for you to share just a little bit more about your personal journey in arriving to this knowledge, like where you, Cera, come from, and how this transformed you, and why it's so powerful for you.
Yeah. Well, and this is all like stuff you can read about if you join the course. I put a lot of this stuff in the book. Let's see, where do I even start? I mean, I was put on my first diet when I was 6 years old. My mom and my grandmother were both very, very concerned that I was going to be fat as a teenager. And that kind of began a huge war between me and my mother about food and about my body, and just instilled a huge amount of shame in me. My dad had been obese as a teenager and had lost a tremendous amount of weight, so there was pressure on that side as well. Both of my parents were fitness instructors, so I had that pressure. And I was in dance starting from a very young age, and I always had a curvy body type. Even when I was like the littlest kid, I was always the biggest person in the dance space. And I went to a competition dance school where we were weighed and measured in front of each other, starting at a very young age. And so I was constantly getting pressure about my body. You know, I'm at the ballet bar being told to tuck my butt. I'm like 8, and I'm like, I am. Like, that's it. Like, what do you mean? There's literally nothing more I can do. That's just what it is. So from every direction, this feeling that my body was wrong. And I had a full-blown eating disorder by the time I was 11 years old. I was addicted to ephedra from the time I was a child until I was in my early 20s. I still have low blood pressure, and my heart rate plummets when I stand up because of damage I did to my body through diet pills. And so my degree of self-harm through food and through diet and body dysmorphia and eating disorders and workout addiction was pretty extreme. And that got into all kinds of other dark places for me. It got into cutting. I definitely used sex for approval for a large part of my life, and shared my body with people who definitely did not deserve access to me, as a way to feel close to people, and as a way to feel beautiful, and as a way to feel desirable. I offered up my body and access to my body sexually almost as like an apology, as part of feeling guilty for the fact that, like, as far as I was concerned, I was never going to be beautiful. So I was going to have to be all these other things. I had to be smart, I had to be funny, I had to be high functioning, I had to be talented, I had to be sexually adventurous, I had to be all these other things to make up for the fact that I was going to be a supreme disappointment to everyone because I was not beautiful and I would never be beautiful. So,
and many young girls have this emotional journey and have these things happening.
Yeah.
It's just really good to share.
Yeah, and
Thank
it took me a long time. And I would say, you know, my body changed radically. I lost and gained lots and lots of weight over and over and over again. And I mean, another part of living in a culture where thinness is prized the way that it is in ours is that, you know, I would be really, really sick and thin and people would congratulate me. I would be really overweight and actively also in eating disorder, and people would admonish me and tell me I needed to take better care of myself. And right, the idea that thin equals healthy and that you cannot be overweight and actively in eating disorder is really dangerous. There are so many ways that we look at bodies and judge their level of health based on their size that are completely erroneous. So that also created all of this cognitive dissonance in me about what was going on for me, because people would tell me what was going on for me in a way that felt very untrue for what I knew was going on for myself. And I would say I was in my early 20s, and I had literally just lost 100 pounds in 6 months by starving myself and over-exercising and taking diet pills. And I was home alone, and I had just come back from getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, taking diet pills, going to the gym, then going to 4 hours of dance class with no food in my system, and came home and I was in the shower and I fainted in the shower and I hit my head. And I woke up on the bottom of my shower, bleeding from the head with cold water running on me, having no idea how long I had been passed out. And I had this idea that I was like, oh, I'm gonna die like this. I'm going to die like this, and EMTs are going to have to come find me dead in my house over losing weight. This is the stupidest fucking thing in the world. Like, it's so stupid.
It really is.
It's so stupid. And like, that, I think, was the beginning of my journey. Just that moment of like, this is so fucking dumb.
And it's not. I mean,
it's
real.
It's real. But to me, just that moment of like, is this?
Are you kidding me?
Is this what I want to go out like?
Right.
This is dumb. Like, of all of the ways I could die and all of the things I could die for, it's gonna be this.
This was your get disturbed moment, as Tony Robbins would say. Get disturbed about something, you change it.
And I would say it still took me some years after that before I actively had the thought that I didn't want to die. I would say it was like 4 years later that I maybe 3 years later, that I actively was like, oh, I want to live. I don't think I ever had that thought. And I remember exactly when I had that thought. I was 27 years old the first time I had the thought, I don't want to die. And that was devastating. I remember crying. I was on a train and I started crying because I was like, how fucked up is it that it took 27 years of my life before I actively decided I didn't want to die? Like, I think most people, or healthy people, actively have the thought that they want to live sometime earlier than 27 years into their life.
Yeah, we want to reach those that don't, and let them know it's here, it's possible, and good that you flipped it.
And I think that one of the reasons that people feel safe with me, and one of the reasons that my program is working for people, is that I have touched such dark places in myself and have gone to such dark places in my own life.
It's easier to trust you because you've like literally been there.
Yeah, and it's okay. like I have a way, I think, of making a lot of things okay for people and being like, yes, that too. I accept that too. You can accept that too. There's space for that too. There's no too far for you to have gone. There's nothing that you can share with yourself or with me where there's going to be a line that says, no, right there, you've crossed it, and now you are unlovable, and now you are unworthy. Like, that line is like, there is no bottom for me.
You're practicing radical acceptance.
Radical, like to the core, from anywhere. Like, you can come back from anywhere.
Proof.
Yeah.
Proof.
Right? Like, and it's...
wow.
But I think that that's what most healers start from.
I think so too. I mean, at first in my journey, I would see people out there and I'm like, oh, there's so many people doing it. It's like, no. People come to you, they know you, you get a relationship going, and then they're like, wait, you did what? And now you're that. You're what?
Yeah.
And that's what brings people in. It's like, yes, this is possible for you.
Right.
And I feel like there are many people out there, and that is what happens. You go to the bottom, you pull yourself up, and then you're like, hey, I figured this out. Does anybody want to come and do this with me?
Yeah. But I mean, like, to be real, I want to say, you go to the bottom, and you hang out at the bottom sometimes for a long ass fucking time.
Longer.
And you like
than you
should.
and also, and I think, on a personal level at this time, I'm in that space of forgiveness for that as well. For not doing projects sooner, for allowing that fear to just kind of be there.
Yeah.
We need to keep moving. We need to forgive and accept even that.
Yeah. So it's like you start at the bottom and you hang out at the bottom for a long time and you see there is an out and you inch toward it and then you back up and then you get a little farther and then you go lateral and then you go a little farther and then you go right back to where you
Groundhog
started.
Day.
Right. Like, so I want to just make space for the idea that, like, it's not like you hit rock bottom and then you climb out and then everything's rosy. Like, when I say the process for me was about 10 to 12 years of looking and searching and trying and trial and error and backsliding and finding new places of like, oh, I'm still fucked up over here. Oh, like, that never ends. If you're really doing the work, right? There's no ascension, right? Then you're dead.
You want to enjoy the journey.
There's no point where all of a sudden you're better. There's a commitment to continuing to search and to continuing to accept and to continuing to working through. But it's not like so if you feel like out there, you feel like, oh, I'm still in that bottom place, fine. If you feel like, oh, well, I was at that bottom place and I've like inched out a little bit, but I'm still not there yet, fine. If you feel like I've inched out and I've gone back and I've moved sideways and I've like circled around, right? Like, that's all part of it. It's not, growth is never this like linear pathway. And I think a lot of times we're done damaged by the idea that, like, oh, you have an aha moment and you just fix it and then you're better, right? It's not.
Right. So what you're saying is this is a new lifestyle. This is a new way of being that you are stepping into because you are continuing to do the work and you're going to continue to learn.
Yeah.
Learn how to take care of yourself.
And it's going to be challenged constantly because of life, right? Because there will be times that your body changes or a job or like something changes that you could not have foreseen, and all of the acceptance that you've accrued is challenged to the core. And you've got to, like, you're like, shit, I've got to start over. Or like, I thought I was okay and I'm not. Like, this, when I talk in the group about the 6 pillars of body love, I talk about them as being prescriptive. That, like, you're going to have to go back to different pillars at different times as needed, right? Like, that there will be times that, like, you might feel really good at accepting and loving yourself, and then your partner leaves you, or then you get diagnosed with a chronic illness, that, like, things change and you feel challenged and you have to just, okay, well, now I have to apply this lesson in this new way. And that never ends. It never,
Right.
using the tools never ends, because life's going to just keep throwing challenges at you. That's the process
Right.
of being alive.
Improvise.
Yeah, exactly. You got to improvise.
And you got to eat food. Like, you got to keep doing the thing to
You
stay
got to
alive.
keep nourishing
Yeah.
yourself. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Cera, so
Thank
much
you.
for being here. We celebrate you, your work, your path, your journey. And if you guys want to find out more about this program, register for the program, talk to Cera. You can contact her. Links below. We're going to wrap it up here today. And thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you
Thank you
next
so
time.
much.
Thank you, Cera. We'll see you next time on Sisterhood Portal.